Before she was Chelsea Jane Doe, she was Tiffany Bradley, a 16-year-old girl from Allentown, Pennsylvania, remembered by family and friends as someone who loved to draw, dance, and cheerlead. For more than 2 decades, her name was lost, but her story was not, because somewhere behind the label Jane Doe was a teenager whose life had been violently cut short. In November 2000, Tiffany was reported missing from Allentown by her family. Just days later, on November 13, 2000, police discovered the remains of a young woman in a parking lot at the Soldiers' Home in Chelsea, Massachusetts. At the time, investigators did not know who she was, so she became known as Chelsea Jane Doe. The body had been severely mutilated, and for years that made the case especially haunting. The victim was found, but her identity remained hidden. What eventually broke the case open was investigative genetic genealogy, a process that combines DNA analysis with old-fashioned family tree research.
In 2023, Massachusetts investigators revisited the case and submitted DNA for advanced testing, hoping newer technology might succeed where earlier efforts had stalled. Scientists built a usable genetic profile. Then researchers used that profile to search for relatives through public databases and genealogical records. That trail eventually led investigators to a close family connection, and a DNA sample from Tiffany's brother confirmed the match. On June 3, 2026, authorities publicly announced that Chelsea Jane Doe was Tiffany Bradley. The identification did more than restore her name. It also brought new clarity to a case that had been cold for years. Investigators had long known this was a homicide, and court records and later reporting indicate that a confession had been obtained from the killer, Eugene McCollum.
But even with that piece of the puzzle, Tiffany's identity stayed unknown for over 2 decades, which meant her family lived with a terrible gap. They knew she was missing, but did not know where she had ended up, or for certain what had happened to her. The long delay was driven by the limits of technology at the time, the condition of the evidence, and the challenge of matching an unidentified victim to a family that may not have been in the right databases or even looking in the right state. Today, the case has one major answer it lacked for 26 years. Tiffany Bradley's identity is known, and her family finally has confirmation of what happened to her. What remains unknown are the full details of how she came to be in Chelsea, what her final days looked like, and whether every unanswered question in the investigation has been resolved publicly.
Her case is also now part of a larger shift in forensic work, where the same genetic genealogy methods, once used mainly to identify suspects, are increasingly being used to return names to unidentified victims. And maybe that is the part that stays with people most. After all that time, the breakthrough did not just solve a mystery, it gave a young girl her name back. What do you think is the most important part of cases like this? The science that identifies them, or the patience that never lets them be forgotten?